Live from Austin, Texas, this is the Plutopia News Network Happy Hour, coming to you as usual, and our fine guest this evening, Roy Casagranda, a regular on the Happy Hour. The not ready for cable news players are here. Maggie Duvall, John Lebkowski, and me, Scoop Sweeney. I'm your nonpartisan producer for this clam bake, and our designated driver, Susie Sheeler.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to see y'all. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here, Roy. How long has it been? I love that you keep coming on. It's so fun to have you on.
I think you're the only people that let me talk.
Oh my God. Well, when we were talking about what we wanted to focus on, because of I'm just going to call you a warrior, and your crusade for women's history being restored, I thought you would be a really good person to talk to about what's going on with women right now, and do you think will we make history? Will it be written in the books? And I wanted to start, of course, with paying homage to RBG before the episode. We lost her, and it was a big loss. And so now we've got to move forward, and they're trying to push through a what I'm going to call a radical Christian. I mean, she may be a Catholic, but she's very radical in her beliefs. And in doing that, they're going to, in my opinion, pack the court. What do you think about this appointment? Does it have to be a woman?
I think the Republicans have no choice, right? They have to do a woman because, as it is, the party has a serious gender problem. And, you can't win an election with a quarter of the population. So if they don't get, and it's a quarter because I'm assuming we're half conservative, half left, and then you lose half the women on the right. So they've got to somehow keep their women happy, is what it boils down to. And you can see it reflected in the House makeup and the Senate makeup, right? 4% of the Republicans in the Senate are women, and 6% of the Republicans in the House are women, at a time when the Democratic Party, I think, is 38 or 40% women in the House. So there's like a really big rift along gender lines in the makeup of Congress. So they've got to do it. Yeah. They've got to have at least one conservative woman on the Supreme Court. And Sandra Day O'Connor, of course, was the first woman on the court, and she was a conservative. Right. So it fits. I wouldn't use radical. I would use fundamentalist. Let's call it what it is.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. What we've been doing is we politely don't call Christians fundamentalists, but just because you're a Christian doesn't make you not capable of being a fundamentalist.
Right. I mean, the Crusades and whatnot.
Yeah. A rather unpleasant event for the Middle East. Talk about terrorism, 195 years of terrorism.
Oh, yeah. Spanish Inquisition. That's got to be fun.
Yeah, just the Inquisition in general. Of course, that was a self-inflicted wound because that was Christians tearing up Christians. But
wow, you're making me think humans are really screwed up.
So far, we're just talking about Europeans. I don't even condemn the whole species, just a peninsula in Asia.
Roy, I thought that the Spanish Inquisition was perpetrated by Monty Python's Flying Circus.
I'm pretty sure that is true. Nobody
Mel
expected
Brooks
it.
Was there.
Yeah, and nobody expected it. It was
just out of nowhere. Well, so we've what I've read, and this may be wrong, but what I took away from I think it was a New York Times article, was that as of October 2019, the global participation rate of parliament for women was 8%.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. When we blew up Iraq the first time in '91, their parliament was 17% women, and our Congress was 2% women. Now that we've liberated Iraq, their parliament is 5% women, and our Congress is 20 something, 22%,
Or 24, I think.
24%, somewhere around there. So this was a great way for us to really pass Iraq, was just blow the country up and completely destroy any possibility of women gaining rights there. One of the things that's happened, of course, in the last 20 years, well, really it's 40 years, but it took 20 years to sort of get percolating and then 20 years to sort of unfold, has been the rise of the right. And one of the chief agendas of the right has always been, it was the case with Mussolini, it was the case with Hitler, it was the case with Franco. This is just a theme of the right, and that is the degradation of women's rights. The fact that the Republican Party is so obsessed with abortion is really just, we want to make women barefoot and pregnant again, and that's always the goal of the right.
That seems so bizarre to me because I'm conflicted by the idea of the control and of, say, Abbott coming in and telling cities they can't do whatever their local government says they should be allowed to do. It seems a lot like government overreach. And I thought that they were the party of less government. And so
they are, so long as you're doing their form of less government.
Mm-hmm. And all of their form of government seems to be social. Like it's got nothing to do with money.
Exactly. Well, it has everything to do with money, but it's disguised as social.
Right.
Right. So, that's the thing about capitalism. If you can control the working class's day-to-day behavior, right? You have a lockdown basically on your labor force. It's one of the reasons why I'm always surprised when Republicans vote for things like stimulus packages that go to us. Like, I'm not surprised when they do stimulus packages that go to corporations, but when they go to the people, it's like, why would you give slaves money? You don't give slaves money. I don't understand.
So that they can spend it. It's good for the economy.
So that was the liberal lesson. The liberal lesson, the great experiment from 33 to 81, right? That almost half century, that 48 years, was if you empower the middle class, they have all this cash to spend and the economy takes off. And so that was sort of the brand for the Democratic Party. Let's make a big middle class. And we did. And, Piketty's book, Capital in the 21st Century, he looked at every time period in the human experience where we have good economic data. And one of the things he wanted to answer was a question of, can you get rich working? And what he concluded was that there was literally only one 25-year span of time in the entire length of the human experience where if you got a job, you could become wealthy. And it was from 1948 to 1973. And it was basically the United States and a little bit of Europe. And there was a little bit of opportunity in Japan, just an itty bitty one. So it was really just the United States. So you needed to be in the United States between 48 and 73. And people who lived through that time period, of course, can tell you there were fantastic jobs.
A lot of those countries were
that
bombed into submission and destroyed. So we were the ones that didn't have our cities bombed and devastated. So there was less of that to overcome here.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Europe was in ruins. But, we also helped rebuild Europe. We gave them a bunch of money and said, here, because we realized if they had the money to buy our products, it would bolster our economy. We had to sell our products to somebody.
Well, we had an assumption over that period of time that that's kind of the way it is. And a lot of us who were born, baby boomers who were born within that period, just kind of assumed that was the way things were going to be. And it never really occurred to us that this was unusual and that somebody was probably out there trying to figure out how to take it away from us.
Nixon, to start with.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence that all the socioeconomic vectors, not all, there's a few exceptions, but most of the socioeconomic vectors that we would measure for progress, like, wealth distribution, quality of life, right? All those vectors began to turn around in 1973 at the start of Nixon's first term, or second term.
Roy, you had mentioned the position on abortion, and the patient in chief has been trumpeting his cure that he got from that magical drug that he failed to mention was created through the processing of aborted fetuses. How do you think that's going to play out with the base?
I don't think the base cares. I think he can say and do anything, and the base is still going to vote for him. He's at 43% approval, which is what he's been at ever since he did the shithole countries thing, right? Because if you'll recall, in the summer of 2017, he fell. He was like 35% approval rating, and he just couldn't get out of it. He did the giant tax. It wasn't a cut, for the record. It was taking the tax brackets and compressing them. So if you were at the top end of the tax bracket, you were going to get a cut. If you were at the bottom end of the tax bracket, you were going to actually get a tax hike. And a huge chunk of the upper middle class got a tax hike. So it's really funny every time I hear Republicans going, a tax cut. It wasn't a tax cut at all. That didn't work. He came out and he did the shitholes country comment. Boom, his approval ratings took off. And the next thing you know, he stabilized at somewhere between 41 and 43%, and he just doesn't go anywhere. It's just flat. And so that tells me he's got fanatic followers.
And the fact that women is kind of our focus tonight. I mean, how is he winning with white women still? I mean, it seems that there's an exodus, but there are still a lot of Karens out there. And I had one driving me in a Lyft today because she lost her job because of COVID. And we were just kind of going back and forth. And I said, ugh, Abbott. And she said, oh, I love him. And I was like, oh God, how is this going to go?
I always liked Costello better.
Yeah, he was so much funnier. But I just, I don't know how he still has these women. And he's got women who are not just, Alabama women. There are, actual intelligent, thoughtful women who are going to vote for this man. I know some.
Well, different people have different reasons for being for him. And there are people who are Trump supporters who are planning to vote for him who think he's horrible. They don't like him at all, but they think he's going to give them what they want. Maybe they're evangelical Christians who say, well, he may be a horrible guy, but he's promised to protect Christians,
And he said they'll have power. Christians will have power. He said that.
Yeah. I mean, he's for the people in his base, he's giving them what they want. And that means a lot to them. And it appears to mean more than, whether he is morally or ethically okay or stable,
There are a lot of people in that demographic that their key reason for supporting him is they only care about how the stock market is doing and how their finances are doing. And that can steer a lot of those people, to the point of just holding their nose and voting for the guy.
I would also hazard or posit a theory that a lot of the Karens, they are as frightened of losing their privilege as the the men are, and they've got, everybody's like fighting tooth and nail to preserve their little rung on the ladder. So it's like, women, like, it's like maybe subconsciously, I don't think they consciously think this, but like, I barely have my own place in this world. And then all these foreigners are going to come and take it from me. All these, screw that, that's not going to happen. So, and I think that ties into some of they're going absolutely batshit crazy on people, just like this, like terror. And maybe it's like just unnamed and they don't realize it themselves. I don't know. Just something I'd like to throw out there.
Hey, I
no,
ran across
agree with you
something
there.
that I really want to bring into this, and that's on Reddit. Somebody said Karens love Trump because Trump is a male Karen.
Ooh. Did you guys see it was Sarah Silverman and some of her friends put together a video, and it was this woman calling in the park, and it was 911 only for Karens, and they would just answer Karen. And then this one, it was a guy who called in, and she goes, "Yes, Karen," and he goes, "It's pronounced Kieran." And he was calling, of course, because there was somebody there that was too dark. So what did you think of the debate with Kamala? How do you think she did? I thought she did great. What about
Well,
you?
I totally think she did great. I think there's a couple of layers to this. Maybe there's 3 layers to it, in fact. So the first one is her goal going into that was don't gaffe, don't mess up. And the reason is because she went into that debate with Biden at an 8% lead, which is, about 3 times higher than Hillary Clinton's lead in 2016. So that's a pretty substantial, comfortable lead to have. His lead now in North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, appear to have made it so that he cinched this thing as long as we don't get too many more October surprises that go the wrong way. So
Right.
she needed to make herself into not another October surprise. And she pulled that off. She went in, she had her lawyer's hat on, and she was real careful. She just didn't go crazy, and that was the right thing to do. She avoided answering questions, and as much as that sucks, that is the right thing to do in that circumstance. This is politics. The United States is filled with vacuous people. Don't answer the questions. It confuses them. They're not going to have anything to do with it anyway.
Yeah, it does. It's not even going to matter what she says. He doesn't
42% of the
understand.
people watching were going to vote for Trump no matter what happened, and 48% of people watching were going to vote for Biden no matter what happened. So that debate was only a lose scenario for her. Having said that, she was cool under pressure. She clearly knew her stuff. She presented herself in a very professional way, and I think that could have had the effect of calming some of the fears, because let's face it, there's a high probability she's going to be the 47th president. So it was really important for her to go in there with, don't worry, if I end up being president, it's going to be just fine. It's going to be just fine.
And she had just enough of that. You're such a child, honey. Let me, just enough of that without being, too derogatory, I guess. It was pretty nice. I like the way she handled herself, and
She
said,
had a real nice balance with the incredulous looks.
Yeah, somebody wrote today on a post, she's like your mom. when you're lying to your mom and she just lets you go as long as you can, just waiting till you spit it out.
And then they put cherries on it.
Well, when she spoke up and said, "Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking," I immediately flashed on Midnight Cowboy and Dustin Hoffman in the middle of the street. I'm walking here.
Yeah.
And that had that kind of impact. Like, whoa.
That was
she
really
did one thing that Biden did, and I think that they were both smart to do this. They laughed.
Yes.
And they laughed when the guy on the other end was being pretty inane.
Exactly.
And that was the right way to go.
It really was. And it showed that they were calm, they were in their space, they knew how to handle crazy. They're okay. Another thing that was at stake was in 2016, the Pence Kaine debate. Pence did really well. I mean, there's no way to look at that debate and think that Kaine held his ground. Pence went after him. Pence charmed. He had his Midwestern calm on, and Kamala had to be really worried that he was going to be there, and he wasn't. He was flustered. He clearly had COVID. He was clearly talking to Lucifer because Lucifer had landed on his head. It was It was a and that was about perfect. There was
When-
one more way in which she won, and that is if there was a way to create a computer algorithm that took out her voice, or not took out her voice, but masculinized her voice and made it sound white. So white man voice, but kept all the intonations exactly where they were. And then there was a video that made her look like a white man. And then you listen to the debate again, then nobody would be saying it was a tie. Everybody would be saying she totally pwned him. I think.
Are you kidding me?
There's
Where is this? I'm gonna go find
all the main
this.
pundits are saying, yeah, it was a tie. BBC,
What?
it's a tie. CNN, it's a tie. Everybody's saying,
She ground him into
and
the
she
dirt.
pwned him. The fact that she's a black woman, I think, makes it so we can't see
Oh yeah.
how thoroughly she kicked his ass.
Well, if it was a tie, why was Trump so incensed and calling her a monster and a communist? He obviously has never encountered either a monster or a communist.
Nobody knows who's a communist anymore. They all left the planet.
Actually, they're doing really well in the Federal Republic of Germany. They're the third largest party.
Wow. Well, oh man, the debate was really something else. And I kept thinking another reason he's so nervous is that she's a woman, period. A woman of color is a whole different thing, but where Mother had to be in the room.
Well, that's right. He was on stage with a woman and Mother wasn't there.
Yeah. No, Mother walked up to the stage without a mask.
Yeah, none of them. Yeah, Mother had no mask.
She had no mask.
Well, that whole thing with a woman of color in that space is automatically considered a communist. That's just how they've been educated, or lack of education, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what do you think about this new patriotic school that Trump has brought up several times now?
Yeah.
What is this? Are we going to state school now?
So in Trump's defense, the Soviet Union had this. The People's Republic of China has it. Nazi Germany had it. Lots of countries have worked with similar ideas, and they've been wildly successful. It's a great way to create fanatic, brainwash morons. And that's all you need, because they'll go into the factories, they'll work. We don't have factories, I get that. But, let's say we did make something at some point in the future.
Well, I went to one of those schools out in West Texas. John probably noticed it too. Fortunately, I had an attention span problem, so I really didn't pay attention to the indoctrination.
I thought that's
it was certainly there.
I thought the public schools were that. Like, why do we need another one?
I don't know, but we prayed in our public school, and I always had a real problem with it because I didn't believe in anything at that time, and I was really offended. We had to cross our hands and hold each other's hands and say the Lord's Prayer before a game because the B team on the JV basketball team of Georgetown High School was really he was gonna be listening to those prayers. I mean. But it was totally, it was expected. You didn't get to opt out, so I think that it's been there. We still say when we do the pledge, we invoke God.
Why do we do the pledge every day? A pledge is a type of oath. You do it once when you're an adult, and then you've done it. You've been sworn in. You only do it every day because you're brave.
Well, you do it once, and then the others are reminders.
Yeah, I knew my daughter wasn't long for public school when in second grade after 9/11, she came home from school one day. She hated doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and as much as I did when I was in school. And she told me they were having to put their hands on their hearts and lift their other hand up almost like a Nazi salute. And I was like, okay, this ain't happening anymore. This is not happening anymore. I see where this is going. So yeah.
I used to wonder why I had to talk about one nation under God invisible.
Yeah. Why are we invisible?
Exactly.
No, it's the God
I
who's
couldn't see it.
Well,
God,
under God was an afterthought because that wasn't always
Yeah,
there.
Eisenhower added that, I think.
So here's the twist. The pledge was originally written by Bellamy. His brother's name was Edward. And I forget the guy who actually wrote it, his first name. And he was a socialist. And he was actually creating a pledge to the concept of republicanism,
Francis
not to the
Bellamy.
United States of America. And then we co-opted this socialist
brilliant.
pledge and we turned it into a nationalist brainwashing event and added 1956 under God.
Well, just again, like our national anthem taken from an old drinking song. So,
Right.
you know, it all fits.
And
And
we're on in heaven.
Well, Roy,
That-
you said in 1956, and I was in elementary school at that time, and I'd already gone through a few years of school doing the old Pledge of Allegiance. And when it happened,
Can you
was-
tell me what that is?
it,
What's the
it was
difference?
chaos because all of a sudden, half the kids were saying the old one and half the kids were saying the new one, and it just sounded very strange.
It's like when Sweden switched from driving on the left side of the road to the right side of the road.
Oh God.
And a lot of
I think
head-on
that was also
collisions.
1956.
I was going to compare it to new math, but that's a lot worse. New math was it was bad, but geez Louise. I can't imagine trying to switch from why would they do that? Is it just production costs, I guess?
They were surrounded by countries that drove on the right side of the road. And so if you drove into Sweden, there was just chaos. So they said, screw it, let's just switch.
Wow. Wow. So do you know about any of the women who are running right now for Congress? Do you know what's going on with them here in Texas?
You mean besides Wendy Davis?
Yes, who is in my district? She's
My district too.
Yes,
me too.
yes. She's gonna win. Yay!
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I really hate that Chip Roy has the name Roy.
I know. I hate that he has the name Chip.
And so, he voted against the CARES Act.
Hmm.
There was another vote that he did that was just like, what? I can't remember what it was. It was a couple of years ago, one year ago. So it'll be really interesting to see if she can pull it off. I actually haven't looked at the polling data. I should have done that before coming tonight.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it today either. I probably should have also. I think they're about neck and neck. The last I saw, it was like 46 and 44 or something like that. I can't remember.
It's hard to beat Chip Roy. And, I think that Joseph Kopser, who ran against him the last time, got more votes than most Democrats did and still didn't beat Roy.
That is true.
We're gerrymandered out of,
That's it, it's gerrymandering.
we're essentially
Mhm.
disenfranchised.
Well, I just love the commercials they've been running where they've reprised all of his support for the pharmaceutical companies. I hope you make lots of money. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
wait till you get sick, Jack.
Oh man, he's the worst. He's the worst. He might be worse than Lamar.
Yeah,
Smith.
because at least Lamar was basically missing. for the
Yeah, he
last
was on a
few
milk carton. We could not find that
years. Or the
guy.
billboards. Did you guys see the billboards? Missing.
Yeah, I saw that one in Travis Heights. It was pretty funny. Yeah,
Go ahead.
No. I was gonna say also MJ Hagar is running against Cornyn, which I think is a really,
Mhm.
really I'm very hopeful because she's kind of a powerhouse. But Cornyn is just so it's almost like he is status quo. People
is
want
status
quo.
normal. So
So-
that makes me
and-
scared.
And the polls are definitely not favoring her. They're not close. Yesterday there was a poll that was close, and I think everybody got really excited. She was behind by 1 percentage point in the poll yesterday, but today there was a poll, and she's behind by 9 percentage points. And
No.
Man.
I had done an average. Probably a week ago, I did an average of the most recent polls, and she was behind by 6 percentage points. So if you throw in these two polls, she's probably behind by about 5 percentage points.
Mhm.
So it's going to be tough for Hagar to pull this out. And then to make things harder on her, uh, before the presidential debate, Biden was 1 point behind Trump, and then after the presidential debate, Biden fell 2 points behind Trump in Texas. So Trump expanding his lead in Texas is just going to make it harder for all the Democrats down the ballot to do
And
it.
there's so many running, so many really good folks running. Aaron Zwiener, Julie Oliver. I don't think I don't know if she has a chance,
No,
but
I don't either, but I really hope she does it somehow.
I know, me too. I really like her. And Madeline Eden is running, I think, out in Bastrop. Scoop, is that your area?
That's right. I see her signs everywhere, and I don't see any competitors. Yeah, Bastrop is
No,
doing
she's
quite.
running against Syria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I just talked to the registrar of voters today because I was checking to see how I could deliver the absentee ballots in person because my wife is disabled and can't be walking into the
Yeah.
one place that our dear governor has allowed us to have. They're going
Mm-hmm.
to have a drive-through place starting next week, so people can drive in and deliver that ballot. So that's where I'll
That's
be going next
great.
week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that takes us to a question that I was wondering about the actual voting process here and elsewhere. How much faith can we have that come election day, votes are going to be properly counted and that we're going to avoid strife?
So I think that's the question of the day. I'll just start by saying I have not slept in weeks now because I don't know how we avoid the strife. So I think the first thing to start with is if you can avoid doing a mail-in ballot, you can go vote in person, do it. I get that there's a risk for COVID, but there's a risk the mail-in ballots will be destroyed or lost, or they'll get tied up in the courts for so long that I think you need to assume it's that you're taking a chance with your vote. So I get it if you can't do it in person, but if you can, do it in person.
Now, do you think that holds true if you take a mail-in ballot and drop it into the drop box that they furnish?
So let me talk about how we used to do mail-in ballots in the past. In the states where mail-in ballots weren't basically state law, like say Oregon, where that's all they do is mail-in ballot. In the states that weren't like that, mail-in ballots were always left uncounted until the election was over. And then if the election was close, they might count the mail-in ballots. Usually they just got thrown away. So for all the flag waving, hoorah, rah, we love our soldiers fighting overseas, the United States traditionally throws those ballots away. We don't even count them.
Wow. No
Wow.
In 2000, the Gore-Bush election, Florida counted its mail-in ballots, and that was weird because nobody does that. And the reason they were counting them, of course, is because they were expecting 2 Republican votes for every Democrat vote from the mail-in ballots because it was so heavily military. And then, of course, 2 people were tampering with the mail-in ballots. And the reason we know it was 2 people was because there's 2 different sets of handwriting on almost every ballot. Because if a mail-in ballot has anything wrong with it at all, it's normally thrown away if they count them. So like you wanted to write 2020, you wrote 2002, it gets thrown out. They don't, most states don't even allow you to track your ballot. I think 15 states allow you to track them, but I want to say half of those will tell you what happened to your ballot, whether it got thrown away or it was counted. So at the end of the day, you need to know, like as a political scientist, I'm like, don't do mail-in ballot unless you have to. You gotta go do it.
Alice Embry did hers like the first day that she could drop it off. And she said the day after that, they changed the rules and closed some of the places where you could drop it off, but they've changed the rules now. And so you'd want to probably go to.
He closed a bunch of the drop-off locations.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't.
If we can voter suppress in Texas, that's all we're going to do.
Yeah.
My lovely wife Marcia says that Texas is one of few states that count mail-in ballots before Election Day.
Ah.
Now,
That's good to know.
one thing to keep in mind is be careful how you sign that
Yes.
mail-in ballot, because that's one of the big gotchas that they have. If you don't have the same kind of signature that you had on your registration or on
Mhm.
your application for the ballot, then they're going to toss it. So
Exactly.
I've actually copied the the application that we sent in, and I'm going to actually video my wife and myself signing
Mhm.
on the outside, and we'll see how that plays out. And I'm also going to be going around at the polling places on election day to see if there's any of these mean poll watchers that
Mhm.
the president wants to have out, keeping us liberal, communists from cheating on the ballot.
Yeah, I
Did
think
you
they call
hear?
those goons.
Did you hear
Mhm.
what the Proud Boys did after their name got hijacked by the gay community?
That they became what, the leather
Leather boy. They,
The Leathermen. What?
leatherman.
Wow.
they're not real good on researching, at
Ah,
all, but I
it's
loved it.
That's awesome.
and
It
now
brings all
there.
sorts of imagery.
Yes, and you should see some of the images going around. It's really good. God, they're idiots. I would totally fire my marketing team.
Well, they're probably going to be sued for infringement by the makers of a great hand tool,
Mhm.
the
Tool. Yeah.
Leatherman.
That's right.
I
The
have
Mhm.
a
Leatherman.
bunch of those, and I'm sure they'll be after them.
Oh man, that'll kill them too, because they probably all have them.
Yeah, probably.
That's probably how they came up with it. Well, we got to change your name. The guy goes, "Well, I got a Leatherman." Oh, that's a good one.
So
That's
the other
probably
reason why I'm nervous about the mail-in ballots is because the Republicans are going to tie them up in the courts. And so it's going to probably take a long time to count them. And then on top of that, there's going to be weeks of court battles. And the Republicans have already started. And a South Carolina case has already gone through the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruled that all the ballots already sent are okay. They should be accepted. But then new ballots have to have a witness signature.
Oh, come on.
So first of all, what's the point if we're doing the mail-in ballot to avoid contact with people so we don't contract COVID?
Yeah.
And of course, the reason they did it in this, 5-3 ruling was because 5 conservatives voted against the 3 liberals.
what if I forge my own witness signature?
I don't even know. So technically, your ballot is a legal document. It's an affidavit, right? It's an actual legal binding document.
So
Right.
you can't lie on it or
You
go to
can't lie
jail.
on it. That's
Mhm.
perjury. So you shouldn't forge your own signature, but I guess forge
I
a
just
signature.
don't get, they just seem to make things easy.
Well, the way I look at it is like most narcissists I've run across in my life accuse you of the very same things they're guilty of, right?
Exactly.
That's the thing. It's like anything the Republicans are throwing, it's like, yeah, because that's what you do all the time, par for the course. Because I wouldn't even think of that, but your devious mind thinks of that, and it's just like they don't know any other way than to cheat and manipulate, and it just drives me because they know they would lose.
They know they would lose.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
there are. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, Maggie's comment brings to mind the name Paxton.
Yeah. And the
What's your take on that, Roy?
Seriously.
how many scandals can one guy have? I just don't understand.
Obviously more.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
going to
it's
get
really-
a cabinet appointment.
What was that?
He's going to get a cabinet appointment.
Yeah, sure. Of course he will. I mean, Mnuchin has one.
Mhm.
Oh, Mnuchin
you-
is my favorite because to me, he epitomizes what Trump stands for. He took money that was supposed to be part of the bailout program for Bush's depression, and then used his company to foreclose on houses, and then bought those houses using the money that was part of the stimulus package, and then set up a giant renter empire where he rented the houses back to the people that he foreclosed on.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
what a piece of
Yeah, it's capitalism at its best.
God. These
Prey off the
people.
suffering of others.
Mhm.
I literally had a conversation with someone the other day over Facebook who said that capitalism was the best form of government there is. And I
Other
was
form
like,
of government.
exactly. I was like, but it's not a government. And she said, well, what do you think the US is? And I said, well, it's a Republican democracy. Is what I think it is. And then she didn't know what that was. And I was like, I can't help you from there. You're going to have to go Google that.
Civics class.
We didn't have civics class when I was
I
going to
know.
high school.
I discovered on one of the free university sites, maybe it was edX, I discovered that they were offering a high school civics class.
Really?
And I had recommended that to some politician. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, when did so many conversations recently, but I remarked that I believe that so I graduated high school in 1982, and I think that was basically the last we saw civics as part of the required curriculum. It started going away after that. Oddly, right around Reagan. Go figure.
Oddly. Reagan is the Antichrist. And the way I know this is Ronald Wilson Reagan. That's 6 letters in each of his 3 names. So it's and so
that's right.
there it is.
I still think Trump is the Antichrist.
No, I blame everything that we're going through right now on Nixon and Reagan, and also to a degree on Clinton and George Bush Jr. I think
I didn't say
presidents set us up for Trump.
I think they ushered him in.
Yeah.
But I still think he's the Antichrist.
They made a child together, those 4 presidents.
Ew.
And
it's a horrible image.
They didn't even need a woman.
No, they don't. Not those 4 men.
Ew.
Well, Roy, let's talk about what happened today with the militia.
Oh my
Yes.
Is this the only occurrence, or that the first shot in the war?
I think it's the first shot in the war, because this is what happens to democracies when the people who are part of it aren't engaged, they're uneducated, and they're not paying attention, and the right wing is rising and gaining authority. This is what happened to Germany in the Weimar Republic. There was a militia called the SA, and technically there was a secondary militia, the SS, and eventually the SS slaughters the SA. But those were basically 2 private militias that operated for the Nazi Party before Hitler got into power, and they terrorized people at the voting booth. They assisted the police in the performance of their duties. We're doing it all over again, and Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, they were plotting to kidnap her.
And what I mean, they had also already threatened her life once before, and they didn't get arrested. And I think
they stormed the Capitol and chased away the Michigan State Legislature with assault rifles.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and what if they had been black? I mean, that's all you have to do.
Oh my God, it would have been
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the picture of these guys, and they look like troglodytes, like they crawled out from some weird, like subterranean den or something. It's just so, ugh. Anyway, sorry.
I did.
Sidetrack.
They were talking to the. I heard a conversation with the Attorney General of Michigan today, and she was saying, I mean, they sort of asked her. They were really trying to get her to say whether she knows of other stuff that's going on, and she clearly did. And they asked her kind of about that, and she just said, I mean, it was like, do you expect for other things to happen? And she said yes, that she did, but she wouldn't really get into it and talk about any specific things she knows naturally. I mean, she's not going to talk about that. But there's a bunch of like amateur militia groups forming,
Mhm.
and
They never went away.
yeah, and they're thinking
Mhm.
about this stuff, and there's going to be some number of those, and if they're not out before then, they will certainly show up on November 3rd or 4th.
Alex Jones is already trying to figure out which neighbor he's going to eat first. I mean, like he literally said that on his radio show. He's
Nice.
sizing people up and asking, like, okay, is this one the right one? And how would I hang him up to dress him? And I mean, it's just,
Yeah, God.
I mean, if I was that guy's neighbor, I think I might call the police. I would be terrified.
If I was that guy's neighbor, I would have moved by now.
Yeah, I mean, he's nuts, and he
Yeah.
was literally
Well-
legitimately talking about this.
Though
He has a lot of
you'll
people
recall
taking him seriously.
the
Yeah.
argument in court about him being nuts was no, he's just an entertainer.
Yeah.
Except for then the next day he came back online and said, I only said that because I was in court. You know, I'm the real deal.
And the judge was listening to that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The judge heard that. And so, yeah,
The part
he's
of perjury doesn't get through to you.
how long has that guy been on? Because I feel like I remember
long.
listening to him.
Well, he
in
was
the
on
90s.
when I was doing fringe wear back in the early 90s,
Yeah.
like 1992, 93. We were aware of Alex Jones doing his InfoWars thing. He was on Access Television.
And he had
Access
a
Television here in Austin.
yeah, that's right. That's right. God, he got so upset.
Well,
Can you
I mean,
imagine him
he's
right now
built an
during COVID?
empire. He's
Yeah,
built
he
an
did.
empire, and he's done it. I mean, I always thought back then that he was being sort of ironic and that this
Mhm.
was a shtick, and that he, didn't really believe that stuff and would never really get behind it. But and that may have been true then, but now, it looks like he's pretty invested in the reality that he's sort of set for himself.
He
Well-
had an interview with Donald Trump while Donald Trump, like right before and right after the election, he had Donald Trump call in. What?
He has a lot of
Feather
he has a
flock
lot of
together.
followers out here in Bastrop County. I can count the number of times I pulled up behind a big vehicle, a Humvee that's already been painted camouflage, and
Yeah,
you could tell that they
God.
have machine gun mounts
Spare me.
welded onto it, and
Ugh.
a big
Well,
InfoWars sticker on one
Oh,
side of the bumper and a
God.
big Trump 2020 sticker on the other. And there's also, I mean, these are, some of them look like they're actual military vehicles that they've gotten from wherever. And the others are just, wannabes who want to paint everything camouflage, and they wear all camouflage, and they're everywhere.
They all have their guns hidden ever since Jade Helm happened, right? I mean, they have to go dig those up here in a little bit.
Yeah, that's our Jade Helm people.
Those are they. Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's okay. So Roy, you said that you were gonna watch the goons. You're gonna be a goon watcher.
I'm
poll-
gonna
I
try.
understand.
A
Oh,
poll-
Scoop said that.
Yeah, Scoop's the goon watcher.
Is it Scoop or did you say the same thing, Roy, or no?
I did.
Okay. Okay. So Scoop, I was
Roy is
thinking about
saying
the.
I'm a nutball, so I'll be out there
That's
in
right.
I drive a pickup truck, so they'll think I'm one of them. So
Mhm.
we'll see. I maybe put my cowboy hat on, but I'm going to
There
have
you go.
my cameras and my recorder and see if I can. I don't know if I'm going to approach anybody for an interview because I really don't look like I'm one of them when they get up close.
I wonder if I could pass for one.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can
Uh-huh.
totally pass as a Republican.
Now, wrong hair color. You're not blonde.
Damn
and,
it.
you,
Blue, don't have the blue eyes.
no makeup. You're going to have to get
Yay.
a lot of mascara. You're going to have Mary Kay come by and give you a makeover.
Yeah.
Oh wow, the pink Cadillac would do it.
Yes.
That definitely would make you one of the in
That would-
crowd.
Yeah, you got
Let's
that.
not even think that.
Oh,
That's
God.
creeping me out.
I'm gonna have nightmares tonight, thanks to thinking of 4 presidents replicating a thing that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ew.
Making
And it's
the,
gonna have
Trump baby. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
What does he have an orange face when he comes out in your nightmare?
Well, there goes my appetite. No dinner tonight.
Well, what I'd like to talk just a little bit more about the SCOTUS position and this Amy Coney Barrett. What do we have that we can say this is why we don't want her? I mean, besides the clear desire to overturn Roe v. Wade, what do we have to stop this? Nothing is from what I can see. This is going to happen unless Trump becomes unable to, I guess, oversee it. I don't know. Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter at this point. It's really up to Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
So, because she's already been nominated, so now it's the confirmation process. The Republicans have some problems. One of them is they're coming up on an election where a bunch of them are running. We may lose Lindsey Graham and Sue Collins, for example. Both of them look like they're going down.
Yes.
And so those senators that are up for re-election, some of them are going to want to spend a lot of time campaigning and not in a confirmation hearing. Mitch doesn't have to get the confirmation done by November 3rd. That's not his goal. I think he actually said his goal was November 30th, which gives him a little bit of time to get around the election. The problem, though, is they're going to take a week off for Thanksgiving. And then if they don't get it done November 30th, they're running up on Christmas, and then they're running up on New Year. So they really have a very narrow window between their Thanksgiving break and their Christmas break to get it finished. They'll get a bunch of work done in the meantime. Two of the Republicans on the Judiciary Committee have COVID.
Yes.
And so the hearings are supposed to start Monday, but unless they bring them in by Zoom, those two guys have to be quarantined. So they have a serious problem. And I don't know that the Senate rules allow Zoom Senate committee hearings.
It's a whole new world. Yeah.
But you get 1 day per Senate session per 2 years span of time where you can change the rules with simple majority. After that, the rules have to require you to have a filibuster-proof majority, which is 60 votes. And so a rule change at this point would be difficult because Mitch McConnell's already used his 1 day majority.
I bet.
So it might be trickier than I think people are thinking. Also, Kamala. And if you all remember, with Kavanaugh, Kamala pulled out all the stops to delay the process. She added weeks to the process. And she's going to do that again.
Yeah.
And so it's not a done deal. If you were betting, bet that she gets through. But, you could bet the other way with a little bit of odds and possibly win.
Oh God, I hope so. I hope so.
Well, and isn't there also something with I don't know if this matters or not, but just happened across my path, the whole thing about she's against IVF. And since so many people are looking to, something about her religious beliefs or something. I just have seen would this be a problem for folks? If
why would you be against something that gets you pregnant?
Well, it's
not natural
because it's not like God
didn't want you to have that baby.
God made or something, that's what I would suspect, that it's artificial, just like birth control is tampering with God. Weird. I think it's something like that.
That's fundamentalism I never heard.
Yeah. So, but it makes sense. I mean,
that may be the thing, though. That may be the thing.
Yeah, I'll have to dig further. I know I saw something. I was like, wow, that's interesting, but it did make sense because of the, it's all about the hand of God. Babies are God's gift to us, and this, but if anything's unnatural in there, which is artificial, in vitro fertilization, then that's.
So what is the alternative method? Is it like, surrogate dads coming in?
Handmaids.
Handmaid's Tale.
Yes.
I mean, that's natural. That is natural.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's
just
totally
saying.
Feasible. Yeah. The women are just saying.
I'm glad we can
we're
laugh.
we're having such a good time that time is getting away from us. And I just want to note that we're down to about 4 minutes left.
All right.
And Roy, is there anything that you haven't discussed that you think is important to discuss that you want to hit in 4 minutes?
I do think we should clarify the scary topic we brought up, which is that the election is not a done deal. I think if we had the election today, Biden would win by such a large majority, both in terms of popular votes and electoral college votes, that it might be hard to motivate the right to do anything crazy. I think if Biden barely ekes by with a win, I would almost rather have Trump win just so we could avoid the civil war that follows. Having said that, Texas, Georgia, and Iowa could play a really crucial role in this. Trump is ahead in Iowa and Georgia by only 1 percentage point, and he's only ahead in Texas by 2 percentage points. If somehow Democrats could just motivate themselves to vote in those 3 states, Democratic voter turnout is abysmal and appalling and inexcusable. If you could just get up and, I don't know, take yourself away from Netflix for long enough to go stand in line and early vote or something.
Trump put up the idea of giving, of course, it's not true, but he promised that he would make voting a holiday, November 3rd. Yeah, right. I'm like, I don't know.
That's not going to happen.
But that's what he said. Now, if Kamala or, Biden said that, I would be like, thank you.
Are you sure he didn't say, I'm going to make the voting day a holiday? That's November 6th.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called Trump Day is what it's called.
And he also did say the ballots are very worrisome. I want to get rid of the ballots.
Yeah.
And he meant the mail-in ballots, but he didn't say that. He said all the ballots.
If you take away the ballots, you don't have a contest.
Exactly. You have continuation.
Supreme leader.
Exactly what Hitler said.
Yes.
I'm so glad you came back. You'll come back again, right? Of course.
Yeah, sure.
I'm so
It's
glad.
an opportunity to talk to you guys.
It's fun, right? We get a lot of stuff fun. So also, there was another topic I wanted to talk to you about. Now, of course, we don't have enough time. What was it? Oh,
Talk fast.
The AOC thing, when she tweeted to Pence, that's Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to you, sir, because Mike Pence invoked AOC in the debate, and I was just like, good for you. I mean, it's about time. Just like when Kamala said, I'm speaking,
Exactly.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Well, and they would all be, horrified. It's always like Mr. Vice President, Mr. President, but never like, Senator. Like, excuse me, you want that, but anyway, good for her.
Yes, women are, as the Dalai Lama said, going to be the savior of the world. Western women will save the world, so we're here for it.
If I might leave one final message here, read the T-shirt and remember it. And that's my nonpartisan contribution to the evening.
You're hiding one side. Move over just a little bit. There you go. There you go.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, sir.
And with that, we sail off into the sunset again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
We will see you soon. And Roy, come back in a few weeks.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe
what?
I thought we might do an election night thing. We'll all talk about that.
Oh yeah.
I'll vote for that.
Yeah.
If I survive.
Totally.
You could join us then.
Yeah.
And Roy's wife, she's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesomer.
Right. Yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be fantastic. Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.